Speaker, I like to think that you've been employing the Emery effect tonight by keeping me on the bench so I can come on and make a late impact. So thank you for that. It's not often I see one of the Scots Tories speaking and I think of our president. But I've got to say I thought of it tonight, and I was reminded during the rather tortured contribution of the honourable member from Berwickshire, Roxburgh and Selkirk, who's no longer in his place, by the quote from George Bush, who said, "I have my own opinions, strong ones. I just don't always agree with them." Mr. Speaker, I would be right to be greatly concerned by this deal that's on offer. I think justifiably. It is a democratic outrage that Scotland has been dragged out of the EU, or is being dragged out of the EU against the people's vote in Scotland. 62% voted to remain. All 32 local authorities voted to remain. And tonight, as we've heard in the Scottish Parliament, all of the opposition, all of the parties in the Parliament, with the exception of the Tories, have voted 92 to 29 to reject the deal on offer. I would also be greatly concerned, rightly greatly concerned, Mr. Speaker, by as what was described as the economic illiteracy from my colleague, the honourable member for Dundee East earlier, when he pointed out that this is already costing £600 per person per year. And Scottish Government analysis says that in Scotland this deal will make Scotland £9 billion worse off by 2030. That's £1,600 per person per year. Even the Chancellor himself admitted that this is going to make our economy smaller. Mr. Speaker, I would be right to be concerned by those things, but the thing that worries me most is what we are becoming in this place, and the message that we've heard from many honourable members and right honourable members in this chamber tonight about the message that's sent out about what we feel about other people in other countries. I've had the great honour of performing a function, it's an unpaid role, as an honorary consul for Romania since 2011. That's the time I've been doing it both unofficially and officially. And I can tell you that the European citizens, those European nationals, those Romanians who come to work in the Highlands and Islands are fantastic people. They have all made a genuine contribution to our communities. They've slotted in as friends, as neighbours and as contributors to our communities. They've been part of the fabric of our communities. And I can say the same for the Poles, for the French, for the Germans, for all of the citizens that are EU nationals that have contributed to the Highland economy. Because Brexit doesn't only have consequences for business, the economies and communities. It affects each of us as individuals, our very identities. There is a quote from the Scottish Government's national outcomes that I'd like to read to you. It says, "Scotland's national and cultural identity is defined by our sense of place, sense of history and sense of self. It is defined by what it means to be Scottish, to live in a modern Scotland and to have an affinity with Scotland and to be able to participate in Scottish society. A flourishing economy and society depend on ambition and self-confidence in Scotland and on Scotland's effective integration into the European and global economy. Our international reputation will influence the extent to which people see Scotland as a great place in which to live, learn, visit, work, do business and invest. A good quality of life and a strong, fair and inclusive national identity are important if Scotland is to prosper and if we are to achieve sustainable economic growth." That's the kind of Scotland that I want to live in. And our European identity and our shared EU values are very much at the heart of this. I've spoken earlier about the vote in Scotland, the overwhelming vote. Yet European Scots face not only the economic and social impacts of Brexit, they face losing their European identity. And there was a nice piece in the Sunday Herald a while back in 2016 that said Scotland has been an outward-looking European nation since the late Middle Ages. From the 16th century, Scots merchants, academics and soldiers spread far and wide in the continent, establishing communities in countries like Poland, Sweden and the Low Countries. Our bond, our connection with European nations is deep and strong and long-lasting. In the Highlands, we've long had a problem with emigration, not immigration, Mr. Speaker. Our deepened relationships with the EU have presented an opportunity for us to welcome EU Scots to our region, a great many of whom, as I've said, have settled in the area and contribute to our economy. And already the UK Government's obsession with unrealistic and counterproductive one-size-fits-all net migration targets overlooks the incredible value of migrant people to our isles and the different economic needs of the Highlands and Islands, and of course those of Scotland as a whole. Over the next 10 years, 90% of Scotland's population growth is projected to come from migration, and this is especially vital for the Highlands. Mr. Speaker, there isn't as much time tonight as I would like to have to be able to explain in depth the importance that EU nationals have to the Highland economy and the importance of our people who go across to work and live and contribute in other EU nations have to us. It is quite simply the fabric of what we do. And this deal, and any no-deal scenario that might be proffered by the Prime Minister, do nothing, absolutely nothing for the people of Scotland wherever they have come from. And I will be absolutely proud to be with my colleagues in voting down that deal when it comes before this House. And I will say, finally, that once again, the actions of this UK Government in ignoring Scotland, ignoring their people and ignoring their Parliament only make the case for the independence of Scotland much stronger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.